Hello and welcome back. This is video 9 in the Flow Certified Coach Training Series. Today we're doing the tile number 7, and that's on culture. And we once again have Glenn Ligori with us, and I will let Glenn introduce himself.
Yeah, hi, Glenn Ligori. I am officially an FCTI, which means I train flow internally at the company I work for, ZF. ZF is a global automotive manufacturer, parts and pretty big, right? 160,000 people, a lot of different divisions and product lines and whatnot. So I've been with the company for about 7 years, just over 7 years. I lead a team called Methods Incubation, which is part of IT innovation. So we get to bring about new ways of working, utilizing the Agile framework. But for me, everything being based on the Flow framework. One thing I always, again, like to tell everybody, Ted was my mentor the last few years, unfortunately, until we lost him. So I learned a lot. And this topic today on culture is a huge topic for me.
It sure is.
So yeah, so what we'll talk about here is just the fact that in the framework and the context of the lenses, the 4 lenses, that culture really does include all of these things: vision, mission, purpose, our core values and attitudes, our strategies and our goals and objectives. So we want to look at that again through the lens, those 4 lenses, and what does that all mean? So we hear this a lot, certainly in our organization, and a lot of different people I talk to and a lot of the different conferences I go to or listen to now that we're a lot of virtual world. And you hear a mixture of these different words. You hear a mixture of, well, how, what is our vision? What is our mission? How do we connect with our purpose and our core values? Do we even know our core values? That's always a good one, right? Do we know our strategy? Do we all have our goals and objectives? And a lot of organizations now love to talk about OKRs versus goals and objectives. So whatever terminology, and there's a lot of overlap in a lot of these I see. But for me, one of the things that I've been really pushing with a lot of our colleagues is that all of these make up the culture and how you interpret them at the different levels. So you as an individual, if you can see yourself in any of those levels, then you're part of the culture in your organization, you as an individual. If you can see yourself, for example, in core values. I love core values because we talk about those values much like they were in the Agile Manifesto. And it's quite interesting. Just listen to something where this person was talking a lot about the first value or principle of the Agile Manifesto: people over processes and tools. And a lot of people forget that. And if we aren't thinking about our people as a core value, what kind of culture do we have? Yeah? If we take that to the next step into a team, if we aren't thinking about how our people in our teams, in our work, how that impacts the values and vice versa, how the values impact the team, if the whole team doesn't embrace, say, that value of people over processes and tools, where's that team going to go? That impacts that overall structure of culture. Similarly, at a product level, for us, we have a lot of products. We have hundreds and hundreds of products. One of the stats for us, is, interestingly enough, for ZF is we have some sort of product in roughly 50% of all vehicles on the road globally, all over the world. 50% of all vehicles. You can watch every vehicle go past your house. Every other one is going to have something from ZF.
Yep.
If you can't see yourself as an individual on a team in that product, and then ultimately that product doesn't live up to the values and purpose and mission of that company, you're going to have problems like VW had several years ago, right? You've seen all the different documentaries on those. I watched one of those recently. Um, you know, a lot of other companies that have seen problems over the years because certain people were able to get away with certain things because they weren't living up to those values and those purposes and those vision and mission, right? They weren't in that. They were just doing things for themselves. Yeah. And then again, that flows up to that organizational level to say, well, are we speaking about our vision? Are we living? What is the mission? What is our purpose? Um, I think one of the things at an organizational level that becomes very, very important at that high level of vision, mission, purpose is things like sustainability now, right? That's a very powerful thing. What about diversity? How do you bring about the changes that we need in our world, the culture of our world, even if you were to think maybe another layer above this, the global culture? Yeah. Each one of those steps is going to be important to ensure that as an organization, you are, again, living uh, sustainably through diversity, through the right purpose, et cetera. Yeah.
It's
Um,
it's interesting when you bring up global culture because
mm,
having being an American that's been transplanted to Scandinavia, and you still have all your baggage from your American culture, but it gives you a completely different perspective when you're dealing with the various cultures here. The Finnish culture is very hierarchical, and the Swedish culture is very collaborative and consensus oriented. Two very different cultures, and they're right next door to each other.
right.
But what was really interesting that Ted and I found out very early on is that flow still worked regardless of the culture. We used it in Asia, we used it in Europe, and we used it in the States. And what was interesting is we would get the same results regardless of the global or international culture that we're dealing with.
Right.
So that was something that when you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, that's
Well, it's funny you said because then when I mentioned the global, when I often talk about this, it's again putting it in through the lens, the four lenses. But then most people read the word culture in two ways. Okay, what's the overall culture that we have as an organization? They just look at it just in one lens, and then okay, what is the culture in which I'm delivering this in? Like you just said, am I in the U.S., Germany, England? So I've done this now in U.S., Mexico, England, Germany, Hungary,
yep,
and China.
yeah.
Yeah, those are the primary locations I've done this. And in each one of those, yeah, we were teaching subsets of these things, but there's always that cultural mindset that those people have. And we often say mindset informs skill set.
Mhm.
Right? What your mindset is ultimately going to inform on how you do things, how you bring things to life. A lot of these in the cultural slide. And then that ultimately determines things like tools, right? When you get down into goals and objectives, okay, we've got to make sure we deliver on them and we've got to report on them, we got to measure them. And those are going to be usually based in some kind of tool sets. So we always think mindset, skill, so tool set, but it all informs the culture in which you're applying it. Yeah. So when I'm delivering in the US, I can be a little bit more easygoing, funny. And as you can tell, I speak with my hands. I'm Italian, and so I'm always like this. And in Germany, I have to really, really focus, and I have to hold my hands, and I must be very intentional about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying I have to be aware. And then in China, it's not about the typical Americans speaking loudly and whatnot. It's about slowing down, being really intentional, looking for cues which are very hard to find,
Hmm.
and then being able to say, can I ask for your opinion, Sam? Can I ask for your opinion, Terry?
Yeah.
Being respectful of saving face,
Yes.
right? That's part of that culture. And so whether you study um, Aaron Myers or Hofstede, or I'm trying to think of the other one. There's a really giant book that tells everyone. I can't think of the author of it right now. It's sitting over there. And it's not that you have to know every little nuance, but just having a base level understanding of those things. I had a really great, I have a great relationship with a guy, yeah, out of Philadelphia who does this sort of thing on the side. Now he's been doing cultural training for years and years. It's a different type of culture for him. It's really recognizing each individual and where they're from. For us in this lens, it's about recognizing how all of those impact your organizational flow.
Yep. Have you ever had anybody say, "Hey, why is vision first and purpose third?"
So if you, for me, no one's never, no, and I apologize, no one's ever asked me that,
Okay, no, I was just
but I
curious.
have thought, no, it's good. And I've thought about that because there are a lot of people who, in fact, right now, our organization is going through a little exercise, and they're calling something the purpose. Yeah. And so great. And it's the right time because we know where we're going. We know where we're going, the why,
Yeah.
but the purpose is then a little bit more heartfelt. It connects with the human emotions.
Hmm.
We could get to things like sustainability and diversity, right, which are very important right now, and more so, more publicized, more in our face.
Yeah.
Those things now connect the why with ultimately those values. It's that connecting point for me.
Well, the reason I brought that up is that that actually came up with some of the European coaches here recently, within the
Mm-hmm.
last couple months. And literally the day after we had that discussion, I got a video clip of Simon Sinek talking about who, and he wrote, "Start with why." He has a video that now says, "Start with vision."
Mm.
So on LinkedIn, I wrote, "That's what Ted and I have been teaching for 25 years." And
And he just gave a presentation at the Gartner Symposium last week. I literally have it sitting in my inbox to review. That his newest book is called the Infinite. I don't have it. It's in my tongue. Something infinite, but it's exactly, it's in there where he has kind of added the layer to his language.
exactly. And so after that, I saw that. I sent that link to everybody who was in that uh, conversation, and they all went, "Oh, okay. Well, Simon's saying it must be right." So
Right, the thought leaders of the world finally get it,
it's like
right?
they finally caught up with us. So excellent. Yeah.
Precisely.
And originally, the intent of this order was to go a little bit from more abstract to less abstract, to a little bit more
Mm,
concrete. And a lot of times, especially for entrepreneurs and for young people in business, they can be like, "Oh, how do you take a vision that's abstract and bring it down to street level, to the concrete, where we can actually do something?" And so that's why we purposely designed this way, more from abstract down to concrete.
and that's not to say that you can't work with people to say, you know what, that's fine. You don't quite understand the vision yet, and can we build from bottom up some of those aspects? Can we, create some of it, and it comes together. And
Yeah.
it's much like the example of yesterday when my colleague called me from his team and he said, we did the vision work, it's there, but there's still people that don't get it. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
That's
because they might be
completely
operating
fine.
down at strategic or goal
Right?
level, and
Even
that's just
below, they're working at very task level
task.
oriented VSPT, and they only know their tasks and they only know how to be told how to do it.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah,
Totally fine.
yeah. We
We'll
can
get
help.
them there. We'll bring them along and they'll understand eventually.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Yeah. So I think wrap it up with again a summary of that. That ultimately culture includes all of this in the order as we were just saying. It doesn't have to be done in that order, but we have to make sure that everybody brings it all together, sort of in that roadmap going from abstract to complete, to concrete. Excuse me. And then we include at the team level the vision and goals, because really you want to make sure that you give it a little bit of time to ensure that that distillation happens, right? Because in this example, it can take upwards of 3, 4, and 5 sprints. And there you go. Cowboy has said we are done speaking for the day.
Indeed. And once again, I'm not getting my menu to be able to stop recording. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm trying. I'll just clip the end here. Wow.
Yeah, that was perfect timing. Tiffany walked in.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing for a second
Yep.
and see if it gives me the. Oh, there it is.